I spent the first part of my childhood growing up in Holland alongside my younger sister Nikki. We lived in the Bulb region, and I remember as a child cycling to school and passing row upon row of brightly coloured flowers grown in fields. Red, yellow, purple, pink, stretched out as far as the eye could see. This visual splendour has stayed with me and resonated throughout my life. Returning to England, I enjoyed photography from a young age, but it was only much later in life that I was able to explore my creative side further. Evening classes in watercolour painting led to completing a degree in fine art. The correlation between art, specifically painting, and photography appeals to me. I use photography to create painterly images. My work is a reflection of how the natural world works in all its diversity, contrast, colour, size, texture and form. I enjoy capturing a unique world of contrasting layers, fragments and patterns, which is mirrored particularly in my flower images. Susan Sontag says, what is written about a person or an event is frankly an interpretation, as are handmade visual statements, like paintings and drawings. Photographed images do not seem to be statements about the world so much as pieces of it, miniatures of reality. I used the Vanitas theme when I was studying for my degree. Vanitas, or memento mori, is often associated with still life painting in Holland in the 17th and 18th centuries. In this painting, the carnation and columbine refer to Christ's passion and the hope for eternal life. The iris signifies faith and purity, whereas the rose refers to the enjoyment of life and to death. The flowers are beautiful and in full bloom, but act as an additional reminder that they too will fade and perish in time. Anya Galaccio is an artist who uses organic materials. For me, the work Preserve Beauty is a modern take on the Vanitas theme. Her use of red symbolises passion, danger, death. Green denotes a new life of nature. The flowers, whilst visibly striking when newly installed, would gradually fade over time and decay. This makes us question the idea of beauty and what inevitably becomes unpleasant over the duration of time, i.e. the decay of the flowers. Sarah Jones's images explore the relationship between the space outside and inside. She alludes to Dutch still lives being painted in a photographic manner. She says, I'm interested in a kind of collision between something that appears to be quite stripped back and something that suggests the idea of pleasure and beauty. Being a watercolour painter, I enjoy exploring the various opaque elements of an organic and time-honoured photographic technique, namely wet cyanotypes. Capturing the images developing mid-process was, for me, reminiscent of reproducing the formal qualities of painting, such as texture, line and form. Jill Wellham was the overall winner of the International Garden Photographer of the Year, and I had the pleasure of looking at this image in 2019. To me, it is reminiscent of a painting, yet it is a photograph. Helen Sear describes her photographs as veils, using multiple layers of images taken at different places and times of the day. I believe she is creating a contemporary twist and playing to the notion of still life. The background is a seductive, dark maroon colour, inviting your gaze at a perfectly natural, organic arrangement of wildflowers. The colour palette is gentle and fairly muted, a contrast to brightly coloured cultivated flowers traditionally displayed in an ornate vase. There has been much debate and discourse regarding photography and painting. In The Photographer's Eye, John Swarkowski states, the invention of photography provided a radically new picture-taking process, a process based not on synthesis but on selection. The difference was a basic one: paintings were made, but photographs, as the man on the street puts it, were taken. Ansel Adams argues against this statement. A great photograph is a full expression of what one feels about what is being photographed in the deepest sense, and is, thereby, a true expression of what one feels about life in its entirety. A visit to a neo-pictorialism exhibition at the RPS in Bristol was a turning point and resonated deeply with me. Pictorialism emphasises the perception of beauty and embraces the otherworldly. For me, it is important that there is a painterly, elusive visual outcome in my work. The creation of images that simultaneously trigger an emotional response both internally and externally is a vital factor. The relationship between seeing and meaning is crucial. As John Berger says, seeing comes before words, not only personal experience, but also the essential historical experience of our relation to the past. It is the medium itself, photography, which allows me to create artistic and aesthetic images. I invite the viewer to look closely at the work and ponder whether the image is a painting or a photograph. The appeal for me is the intrigue. All is not what it seems. Beauty is linked with pleasure, allure and attraction. The opposite of beauty is the grotesque, the ugly and the unwanted. It could be argued that weeds are the antithesis of beautiful cultivated flowers. Whilst cultivated flowers have an undeniable aesthetic appeal, I wish to explore and challenge these conventional and traditional aspects of beauty further for my future practice, possibly looking for those plants that appear out of place, that are imperfect, may be misunderstood. I would like to consider the forces of natural propagation versus the human desire to manage and control flora. As I examine this conundrum further, the work will also resonate deeply with me, given my parents' oft-stated view that my taller, younger, slimmer sister was the beauty of the family. I look to explore this concept by making a range of alternative photographic techniques, primarily for cyanotypes, which embraces the pictorialism rationale. William Arnold is another contemporary photographer using alternative photographic techniques. His images of plants are reminiscent of photograms. The Botanical Photography Project, led by William Arnold and in conjunction with Jem Toes Crichton and John A. Blythe, explored the value of native flora. Stephen Gill takes a creative approach to image making, experimenting with in-camera photograms, which involves placing insects and flora in the camera itself. He says that chance is a key factor in this way of working, which he enjoys, rather than having a tight control when photographing. The beauty, I suspect, is the unpredictability, not knowing which insect will crawl into the camera, how it will move, and what the end result will be. There is a similarity with the unpredictability regarding working with wet cyanotypes. One method to eradicate and control weeds is via the use of weed killer. My future practice will involve the use of and adding herbicides, specifically weed killer, to my wet cyanotypes. I wish to go beyond just the aesthetics of flowers and consider new perspectives. I am looking forward to experimenting and taking my practice into this new direction. The images will also act as a synthesis of my own deeper feelings. How we appear to others on the surface does not necessarily reflect the layers of emotions inside ourselves. It's only by closer inspection that we unveil and reveal the detail of our true self. My work is ultimately intended to be contemplative, allowing for a reflection upon human experience and existence. Thank you for listening.